Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately named IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. As part of our efforts to promote play, we're happy to introduce our Porch Play Chats, and these are conversations that focus on a wide range of topics from experts that are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find the latest Porch Play Chats and learn more about IPA USA by visiting our website at ipausa.org. Up in the top right-hand corner of the website are links to our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. I'm Deb Lawrence, president of IPA USA, and on the porch with me today is Lisa Murphy, one of our board members and an expert on play. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, nice to see you again. Thank you.
And joining us today is Elizabeth Ging who is an early childhood instructional facilitator for the Edmond Public Schools in Edmond, Oklahoma. So I think Elizabeth is really going to help us become more grounded in what is possible in those primary years of pre-K through the second grade. In her role, Elizabeth leads more than 275 educators and administrators in early childhood best practices for their over 8,200 students. And so Elizabeth is going to help us sort of understand where they come from in prioritizing play in the public school setting, which is something that is very much needed. So Elizabeth, my question to you is, with so much accountability in the public school settings, how does your district prioritize play during the elementary school day?
Hi, well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and discuss the things we're doing in our district. It makes me quite proud to be a part of it and to see the initiatives moving forward. There is so much accountability in that public school system. We all know that in any early childhood education program, play is part of the learning experience for an incoming teacher. But oftentimes when we reach that public school setting, all of the accountability and the high stakes, sometimes those best practices and what we learned in that university setting get negated because of all of the pressures and the things that come with being an early childhood teacher, especially in a pre-K through fifth grade building where we are all together, yet there are different practices that should be in place in those primary grades for those early childhood students. So about 3 years ago or so, we began noticing that we were having more and more challenging behavior with our kindergarten students. And so as we began to investigate into it a little bit further, we discovered that a lot of the challenging behavior was a result of a lack of social skills or emotional regulation, social emotional intelligence with our students. And then we also noticed that their motor skills were underdeveloped, that our children were coming to us with a lack of skill sets that we previously had widely seen. I had many of our veteran teachers just resonate over and over that the children were coming to them with different skill sets and they were having to adjust and change their practice and intervene more. And so as we began going through this and looking and researching and observing and knowing what we were missing and what we were needing to help children be successful, to help teachers feel the joy of teaching, and that we needed to return to what decades and decades of research has told us, that children develop those social skills, those motor skills, that they learn to understand the world through play. And we can educate and advocate in our community about play and the importance of play, but we can't control what happens outside of the school day. And if our children are not getting the opportunities to play like they used to, whether that be because of technology, whether it be because of parenting choices, safety, what have you, that we couldn't control that, but within the school day, we could have some control over that. And so we wanted to make it a priority that our children had time to play in the classroom to develop those social skills, those emotional skills, be able to self-regulate, be able to be successful with whatever their task was, and to feel confident going forward. And so we turned to play. So we began well, we had district conversations, of course, first, and thankfully I'm so blessed to be in a district that supports early childhood education and those best practices. So from the very top, from our superintendent down all the way through our support staff, we've had the support that we've needed to put this in place. So we began by sending an email out, an open invitation to all of our kindergarten teachers, which is approximately about 90 of them. So we sent an email out to all of them, inviting them to come and be a part of a committee to look at how we will ensure that children are having playful experiences in the classroom daily, and what that's going to look like, and how we can ensure that that time is being used very purposeful because of all of the accountability that we have in place. In our district, we have a standards-based reporting system for our grade cards. So all of our children in pre-K through second grade, quarterly, they're evaluated on mastery of essential standards that have been chosen by the district and collaborative teachers. So they each quarter report utilizing a rubric with a 1 through 4 scale on how those children are doing in regards to mastery of a standard. Well, when we look at those Oklahoma academic standards, we know that we can accomplish mastery or observe where children are in regards to mastery through play and playful experiences. But we have to be prepared for that, and we have to set the stage for it. And it's more work. It's harder than just giving direct instruction or putting worksheets in front of them or having our day completely structured, which limits the creativity and exploration of children, developing the skills we are looking for. So we invited all of our kindergarten teachers and established a committee, and collaboratively, this committee decided, what do we want to see in our kindergarten classrooms? What does this look like for our children in our community? So we established learning areas for the classroom. We decided to call them learning areas because we wanted a distinction that they are different from centers or workstations. That a center or a workstation often has a task tied to it. There's a product that is expected at the end of visiting that rotation or that center, that workstation in the classroom. So we decided to call them learning areas. In kindergarten, we developed 8 learning areas that we'd like to see and promote in every kindergarten classroom. So then from there, we took those learning areas and all of our Oklahoma academic standards, and we sat down, and it was very tedious work. It took the most time, but so worth it. We went through all of our content area standards as well as our approaches to learning, our motor standards, and we tied any one of those standards that could be observed through mastery in a play type setting, and we tied those to the 8 learning areas. So then we have kind of a guide to be able to see, oh, these are the standards that we're expected to master in kindergarten, but it doesn't always take direct instruction. It may take a mini lesson, absolutely, direct instruction is important, but it doesn't need to be the bulk of the day. So we might take that mini lesson and then we develop those learning areas in the classroom to see what it is we're looking for. So if we're familiar that this standard can be mastered through a play type setting, and we've set the stage in our classroom correctly, we're prepared with a data collection system to know where they are in that mastery. Then as the teacher, when I allow that time for play in my room, I can go and I can play mini roles. I'm the player, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm the prompter, but I'm always a keen observer. And when I'm in that moment, I can prompt or I can play or I can stand back and observe and see where children are in regards to mastery of that skill. And then I can go on and check it out in another area of the room. And I can look at interdisciplinary skills across the board with kids making connections with content across the curriculum. So I'm not limited to this is my math time and this is my reading time and this is my social studies time. That yes, we still have those established in our schedules through the day, but we can bring all that learning together when we give them the chance to play in an environment that is set up for the way that they learn best. And then we also get the benefit of connection. We are in the belief that connectedness and relationships govern behavior.
Mhm.
And if that is in place and relatively solid, the academics come easily. But first, we have to establish that our children feel safe, that they have ownership in their environment, and that they can discover and explore. But as educators, we have to work hard to make that happen, to set the stage. So we, as our committee, came together, aligned the standards to the 8 learning areas, and we produced a resource booklet for our kindergarten teachers. We went through and created schedules. We asked that in every kindergarten classroom that they would allow 45 minutes daily of a purposeful play time in their classroom. We've labeled it as purposeful play because we want it to be intentional, that there is still plenty of inquiry and choice if we set the stage correctly. But we've also taken the time, because we're in that public school setting with that high accountability and high stakes and lots of measurement and paperwork and screenings and assessments and all of those pieces. We had to be really intentional with all those minutes in our day. So we dubbed it as purposeful play, because there is purpose behind what we are doing. So we developed a resource book, and within this resource book, we included posters and printed posters for all of our teachers to hang in their classrooms for those 8 areas, the typical ones we've seen for years. When I'm in the construction area, I'm learning balance, I'm learning symmetry and some of those pieces as well. Since we wanted our stakeholders or anyone walking into the classroom, when they see those things, if they don't have knowledge of early childhood education or play, that it would be a visual that they could encounter quickly of, oh, they're not just playing, or where's the learning? This is an elementary school classroom. How are your standards being met? Where are they at in intervention and screening? But it's intentional that this is happening because we planned for it to happen. So we included posters. We also went through for each of the areas. Sorry, I'm pulling my booklet.
And I'm going
here.
to ask you to give us those 8 areas too, because I think that'll be important for people.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you right now, those 8 areas we established. We established the construction area,
Mhm.
dramatic play,
Mhm.
math, science and discovery, sensory, writing and publishing, reading, and creative arts. And we were very thoughtful. We went back and forth with these areas, lots of debate and discussion. For example, with science and discovery, initially we had sensory included with it.
Mhm.
But through the development of our committee and through those conversations, we had concern that with science and discovery and sensory all being together, that through lack of time, that many would default to just utilizing that sensory table and putting items in the sensory table for that area. We wanted it broader than that. We want those snake skins on those tables and those acorns and magnifying glasses and things for them truly to discover. But they also need that sensory integration so bad too. So we decided to separate them and make those 2 separate areas for that reason.
Okay, and I have one more question. The 45 minutes that you have that you're encouraging teachers to use, is it in a half-day program or a full-day program?
Full day.
Full day.
So our our pre-K program is full day with the exception of about 8 sections. And then our kindergarten programs have been full day, 8 years or more, somewhere in that nature. And we gave teachers some suggested scheduling, and that was an interesting point with our committee, because of course all teachers in all buildings, we have over 15 elementary school sites, and so everyone comes with a different experience in what they do in their building, from assemblies to their requirements, whether they were a very affluent building or one of our Title I buildings. Everyone brings with them items from their school. And so we went through several different schedules, and well, that would never work for me. Well, this would never work for me. So we ended up breaking down the minutes of the day. That was the common factor for everybody. Everybody has the same amount of minutes in their day. So we ended up giving a suggested schedule with minutes in the day and how to use those minutes most effectively, while including 45 minutes daily of play. And then teachers have the autonomy to set that schedule how they needed to, based on their school site, based on what's happening in their buildings, but also making play a priority within that day. So
I have a clarification question, please.
Yes.
Okay. So the 8 areas, in my brain, what I'm seeing is that those, you're calling them, what did you call them?
Learning areas.
So
Yeah.
in those learning areas, do the children have the ability to, like, okay, so you open at say 7 in the morning and the children come in, and at that point, are they able to choose where they want to be within those learning areas, because the teachers now know how to translate the play to the outcomes and the standards and the guidelines? So in essence, can correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I'm going after. The children are playing in the room all day because the teachers now know how to translate what's happening to the policyholders, the stakeholders who might come in and not see the learning, quote unquote, that's happening while the children are in that. And then in addition to that time frame, there's 45 minutes of what, I guess, how would that 45 minutes be different than what I'd be observing the rest of the day? Can you speak to that?
Clarify. Absolutely. So it is kind of in addition with all of the other things. And since many teachers still we have the reading sufficiency law in our state. So we have required minutes that are for ELA instruction in that time that by law we have to uphold. And so they still have within their day, they may have that 60-minute to 90-minute reading block established in their room, but they are able to incorporate those learning areas with a workstation center time. So we're saying that that's not, oh no, redo everything in your room. How can we make these balance and engage with each other through the day? So I might still have that 60-minute reading block where I've got small group instruction going on at my horseshoe table, and the children are in the learning hours areas through somewhat of a forced rotation, a timed rotation, to where they have a task-centered thing for them to complete. Many of them do a must do and a can do or something of that nature. So when they finish their task that they must complete, then they have the learning area option to finish out their time. And so they still have that direct instruction, those accountability products, some of those pieces that our teachers are doing, but they are more playful experiences. I would say where it's limited is maybe in that inquiry and choice time. So they are still doing a scheduled day, but in some cases, being a large district across the board, we were seeing that not all had the opportunity for that inquiry choice play or that free range of play in their day, that it was always structured or a forced rotation through the day. So when can we give them some autonomy in what they want to do in discovery and choice? So I would say it's somewhat in addition to, but it's also blended into the rest of the day. And the result of what we have seen, because we did do professional development with teachers and with administrators, what we're seeing is more of that in the classroom in the day. So as we're returning to, oh yes, I did learn, that is best practice and my kids need that. We're seeing, and I'd say with the success they see when they're having that time in their classroom, I'm not having behavior issues when we do this. My kids are getting along great. Look at this writing sample that this child did that they initiated all on their own, and yet I can't get them to write in his journal at all. So with the success that we see during that time, helps motivate and instill more of those times in the classroom. So I would say, yes, it's kind of a reserved time that they set aside, but they still utilize it and integrate it throughout their day. And something you mentioned was we're seeing a trend and a surprising result with great success is that many teachers are putting that time of their day right at the beginning as the students arrive. The most difficult transition for any child is that home to school transition, regardless of where you're coming from. And so to come in and have that opportunity to play first off helps get me going, helps me feel safe, helps me feel connected to my environment. So many of our teachers are having that playtime right at the initial start of their day, which sets the stage for the rest of their day and success that many of their most challenging children that they would struggle with throughout the day, that's eased up significantly because they're coming in and starting their day with play. The rest of the day is going so much smoother. The children are more compliant. They're following schedules or expectations or tasks that they were previously asked to do, but showed a lot of resistance to. Now they're doing more willingly. So we're seeing a shift, I'd say, across with that.
So, okay, go ahead, Lisa, and then I'm going to go in.
I'm curious what time frame, how long has this process taken? When did this roll out? When did that first email get sent? That's a question for me. Also, kind of a snarky question. Did you have anybody resisting right out the gate? Like who didn't come to that who didn't respond to that invitation?
Yes. Interestingly, and of course with administration, that can always be tricky sometimes as well. We invited an open invitation to all of our kindergarten teachers. We had several replying interested, but I'd say when we got down to the core work of it and the consistency, we had about 8 to 10 kindergarten teachers who really just dug in and contributed to the work of this, which the outcome of our resource booklet that we've utilized. I really didn't get much pushback from kindergarten teachers. I did have several who reached out that they were alternatively certified and weren't trained and didn't really understand or know the benefits of play. So they were either coming in as an emergency certified teacher, which unfortunately in our state, we have a lot of those, or they were alternatively certified. And so they were looking for more support in order to do what's best for their kids. And the willingness, the want was there. Interestingly enough, where we began to get more pushback was with first grade teachers that the kids have to be ready for next year. They have to know all their sight words. They need to know. We began getting more pushback from first grade teachers. And so we began educating them as well, because another myth that we're always looking to break, especially in a pre-K through 5th grade building and setting, is that early childhood is not just pre-K and kindergarten. Early childhood goes to 3rd grade certification for a reason. Why are we ignoring those reasons? I personally serve primarily pre-K through 2nd grade in our district. And so once we hit 1st grade in our state, you can be certified in either elementary or early childhood certification. So depending on what your university experience was, you may or may not know the benefits of play. You may be very education centered and academic focused on that without really understanding the need of the developing child. So we also had the opposite of that. Many 1st grade teachers, what about us? What about us? We want to come. So we actually are in development. We've already aligned our standards with 1st grade, and we've had to pause a little bit within pandemic, but we plan on carrying this project up through 2nd grade at a minimum. So you had asked about when we had began. I was going back to our book. It was throughout the summer of 2019 and into the first semester of last school year that our committee researched.
This is a recent transition.
Yes, very recent. So we last year, of course, we didn't get to finish the school year after spring break. Everything went virtual and remotely. But in January, before all of that started, we brought in Christine Mraz. She's Heinemann author of the book Purposeful Play, which was one of our core resources. We utilized several resources in our committee work. And we brought in Christy to do PD with our kindergarten teachers and with our administrators. And so we were continuing to develop the understanding and what we're looking for. And we're still absolutely in that process and forever will be. So it is relatively new. Our district made the commitment to this project by purchasing hardwood blocks for every kindergarten classroom, that should be a staple in every single kindergarten classroom. So our district invested in that. And unfortunately, right now they're sitting in the warehouse. As we haven't been able to distribute them. But we plan to, for this year in continuation, having professional development on that, setting the stage of having the environment ready and our data collection systems ready for all those accountability measures that we have to keep in place. So we're still continuing. We've had to press pause a little bit. This past summer, again, we reached out, sent an email to all first grade teachers and had our committee formed. They chose to narrow down from the 8 to 4 learning areas that we'd like to see in every first grade classroom. And we've taken the kindergarten resources and kind of developed from there. They've already aligned all of the first grade standards to those 4 learning areas. And we're working on developing our resource book. So we've had to pause a little bit because of pandemic, but it is a relatively new project, but it still has a lot of momentum and initiative and support across our entire district.
Elizabeth, what I see is a model for other districts to begin to explore, right? And I think the beauty of what you've described to us is the positive impact that teachers are already seeing, even if they only were able to do it for one semester or half of a school year. They are already bought in because they see the benefits of the changes that are happening. When I was a kindergarten teacher, the first 45 minutes of every day was play. And so I'm so glad that they're doing that because children needed a moment to settle, right? To greet their friends and to talk about what happened last night or on the way to school, or to express their interest and just to play and sort of decompress a little bit from whatever they had experienced before they walked in the door. And that, I mean, when I taught, we used Polaroid cameras the first time so ages and ages ago, before so much of this pressure has come onto public school teachers. And I saw the benefit of children being grounded, being calmer, and being ready to be more focused. And I love how you describe the must do and can do, because I had those too. When I was working with a small group, I said, I call them work jobs though. Here's the things that you must do. They were all hands on, they were all with manipulatives or something. And they would bring them to me over on a tray, and I would assess what they had done while I was working with a small group. And then once they were done with their 1 or 2 work jobs, then they could go and play in the classroom. And we would do that a couple of times during the morning. I know that another big issue is recess. So in addition to, and one more thing I love how you started it with 45 minutes and now it's expanding more. I think that was very smart. Instead of saying you have to have an hour and a half of this open-ended time when you're observing children, I think teachers, once they've seen the benefit of it, are willing to stretch that time a little more. But I'm curious about recess. So in addition to the 45 minutes, can you tell us what recess looks like in kindergarten, first and second grade?
Absolutely. So our kindergarten students, as well as first and second grade students, they have a lunch recess, typically 20-25 minutes, either before lunch or after lunch time. But then they also have a second recess time in the afternoon. Some of them, depending on lunch schedules and depending on the grade level, will flip it and they'll do a morning recess because their lunch recess is later in the afternoon. But the majority, I would say, they have their lunch recess and then they have another 15 to 20 minute outside time later on in the afternoon. Many of them tie their snack time to it. So they go outside and they eat their snack. And when they finish their snack, they go and play. But interestingly enough, when we associate those unstructured playtimes, recess always comes up. And it was a point for many of our administrators. Well, does this count as part of their recess time? And so really establishing the difference in our purpose for these times, that outdoor time and that free play time is absolutely necessary for them too, but it is different than what we are asking for in the classroom every day. And we really haven't struggled, I'm not finding, with that happening.
So, and where I was getting to was that now we've sort of expanded that child-initiated time to even before the teachers have seen the value of it and they start to sort of lengthen that 45 minutes. Now we're at an hour and a half of the day broken into 3 different sections so children have a break from academics. And I think it's a beautiful model. And one of the things I want you to think about sharing is, I don't know if it's copyrighted or how you have your resource book, but that might be beneficial as a starting place, or so that people could say, okay, I want to do this in my district, but I'm not sure how to start. And of course, the standards would be different, but they have to be similar, that they could go in and do some modifications. But is that possible? Would you be willing to share that resource book that we could add to the Porch Play Chat?
Absolutely, I would be honored to add it. Like I said, we're still continuing to develop. It's not flawless or error-free. We've tried to give credit where credit is due to all of the resources that we utilize, but I'd be more than happy to share that with you. I did have the opportunity to share it with stakeholders across our state. I was honored to be invited by our superintendent to his state superintendents consortium to share about our district's play project with other superintendents across the state of Oklahoma. And we have shared our resource book and other things with our Early Childhood State Consortium. So we're happy to get it out there and help anyone initiate this in their districts as well.
Because I think the model that you're giving us is a workable model that we just have to, I do work with superintendents and principals, and I'm the early childhood person that comes in and does that work with them. And the one thing I find is similar to what you were finding with your teachers, that you have principals who've been in secondary positions, and that's what their degrees in, who are all of a sudden placed into an elementary school, and they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know, what do I do with these kids? Because it hasn't been their training. And so again, I think we fear that there's going to be a lot of resistance. What I see instead is people saying, I need help. And so I think giving them some tools that is a model that's already existing and that has shown success is going to be helpful. And so thank you for being willing to share that. When you get the first grade one done, I hope you'll be willing to share that as well, because we preach to the choir that early childhood is prenatal through the 3rd grade. And so all the practices that I teach in my college classroom are prenatal through the 3rd grade. What is best practice in play? But it is a hard nut because they leave the classroom and then they go into a setting that doesn't have those same beliefs, and they feel pressured to go with what everybody else is doing.
I have to say, one of the most prideful points for me, and where my heart just swells and my eyes get wet, is seeing the joy coming back to teachers in the classroom as well, doing the things that they know are best for young children, instead of closing their doors and being anxious and fearful of who's going to come in and not understand or know what they're doing or why they're doing it, that they can proudly leave that classroom door open and practice those things with pride without having the anxiousness and the fear that I'm going to be caught with my kids playing. So I think that's been one of the most prideful things that I have experienced through this project, and teachers communicating with to me and to other stakeholders that I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing for my kids.
And I think that's a wonderful place for us to close, because I think that that is another powerful statement for what teachers know is right and what they're being forced to do, and they feel like they don't feel like they have the power to change. And I think that you are giving them that power. And I think that is a lesson that everyone needs to embrace, and everyone needs to be able to model. So it this has been incredible. So hang in with us, Elizabeth, while I close this off. So for more information on Porch Play Chats or to join IPA-USA, we hope you'll visit our website at IPAUSA.org. And thanks for listening, and keep on playing.
Bye-bye.